Now, Sean Ingle, chief sports reporter at The Guardian, is on the line because yesterday was a pretty remarkable day at the Medical Practitioners Tribunal Service. Shane Sutton was in the dock and the former head coach of British Cycling and Team Sky stormed out of the tribunal, having denied he was a serial liar, a bully and a doper. Earlier, Sutton had accused his former colleague, Dr. Richard Freeman, who is the defendant in a fit-to-practice case, of being spineless and a drunk who others in British cycling wanted dismissed. Morning, Sean.
Good morning.
I'm not sure what you were expecting heading into this yesterday, but this all seems a little bit insane.
I think with Shane Sutton, there's always that sense that there's a bomb that could go off at any time, and he certainly lobbed a few and had a few lobbed back at him yesterday. It really was extraordinary.
Yeah, can you talk us through how the day went then?
Sure. So we after more legal argument, just before lunch, Dr. Freeman's QC, Mary O'Rourke, basically said that, what she was going to say to Shane. And I think that was probably a deliberate tactic on her part, because at that point we weren't sure whether Shane was going to come in or not. So the fact that if he hadn't showed up, she at least would have got that in front of the tribunal, what she was going to allege. And then at 2 o'clock he comes in. Immediately, there's antagonism between the two of them. She's trying to establish that he was an expert at cycling. He, cycling Commonwealth Games in '78 and won a medal. He'd been part of all these successful teams, and he was trying to sort of downplay it. She kept putting to him that he knew everything, that he was across cycling, he crossed, the ins and outs of the sport, and he was saying, not really, all I'm interested in is the technical stuff. And then we got on to sort of the nitty gritty, where she started basically lobbing some grenades at him, starting with the fact that that when earlier in his career, when sort of 20 odd years ago, that an unnamed person had seen testosterone vials in his fridge and also had seen him inject them. And Shane's response, was that he'd been tested over 100 times in his career and never tested positive. He also named who he thought O'Rourke's, informer was, and she said, no, you've got the wrong person. So that was just the start of what was to come.
This isn't a court case, it's a fit-to-practice case against Dr. Richard Freeman, and those type of accusations that were being made about Shane Sutton, were they expected to come? Was there a feeling that this was going to be a sort of no-holds-barred afternoon where you can basically throw whatever you want at Shane Sutton?
Absolutely. I mean, she's got absolute privilege, so she can essentially say what she wants as long as there's something to back it up. And she had a bunch of witness statements. She said that she was going to put to Sutton over the course of 2 days of testimony. Of course, in the end, we only got 2 hours. But you're right. Shane was supposed to be the sort of star witness, really, for the General Medical Council. He's bringing a case against Dr. Freeman. He's already accepted 18 of the 22 charges against him, including ordering Testagel to be sent to the velodrome where both British Cycling and Team Sky were based in 2011. The crucial point here, though, is who was the Testagel for? The GMC say it was to basically microdose an unnamed rider. Dr. Freeman says, no, I was bullied by Shane to order it because he had erectile dysfunction. So these exchanges were basically to test whether Shane was a reliable witness or not. But at one point, Shane turned to her and said, can I ask, am I the one who's on trial here? I feel like I'm the criminal. I mean, that sort of gives you a flavour of what was going on. He also accused Mary O'Rourke, Freeman's QC, of being a bully. He said, I'm going to get you for defamation, even though he couldn't. It was wild.
Yeah, and even the fact as well that O'Rourke pointed out to Sutton that he had sent Freeman some pretty hostile texts in the last few weeks suggests that Sutton probably knew what was coming and is a little bit rattled by all this.
Yeah, I mean, he did say afterwards that he went in trying to be focused and then got all emotional. That text you refer to, he sent one to Freeman saying, be careful what you say, I can drag you in. You won't be the only person I can hurt, which is, pretty incendiary. And you've got to remember in all this, whatever you think of Dr. Freeman and the fact he didn't keep his medical records and et cetera and so on, he is regarded as a vulnerable witness because, he's had severe stress problems. He's, which we're allowed to talk about and now. And, it was very incendiary thing to do. And Shane really flitted from one kind of mood to another. So, for example, he'd say on one hand, he's a good bloke, a good friend. I have no argument with him or anyone else. There's no one better at the bedside. I'm happy with what I achieved in my career. I wish Richard all the best. Then a split second later, he said, the person behind the screen, regarding Freeman, is a liar. He went through a messy divorce. He was like the Scarlet Pimpernel. I covered his backside when he was there. There were 2 critical cases of athletes who were ill, and I couldn't get hold of him. Someone from British Cycling, wanting him out. And then he said, Richard, you're a spineless individual. I mean, it was extraordinary.
Richard Freeman was behind the screen for yesterday's evidence while Shane Sutton was in, and Shane Sutton referenced that, said the person lying is the man behind the screen. Hopefully one day he'll come and explain why. And I think there was an encouragement for Richard Freeman to come out and basically show his face. Did Richard Freeman show his face at any stage?
No, he didn't. We couldn't see either his lawyer or Freeman yesterday.
All of this obviously goes back to 2011 then, and that order of the testosterone, and I guess whether or not it was for an athlete, which is denied, or whether it was for Shane Sutton and his treatment for erectile dysfunction, which he denies. And we were half joking earlier, Shane Sutton was saying, I'll bring my wife in here to prove it. Are we at that level? Has it got that deep down and dirty that is what's going to happen?
It has. I mean, I think essentially, yes. I mean, he also sweared on his 3-year-old daughter's life, said he'd take a lie detector test. He said that his 12-year-old boy had been hearing all the things that O'Rourke had been saying about him through the press, and he called O'Rourke a bully. She took her gloves off as well, and basically was trying to, I think she was just getting to the point where she was trying to really forensically drill down into what he knew. And before he walked out, there was a quite a long discussion about a statement that Sutton had given to the General Medical Council, 2 statements, about whether he'd read Freeman's book or not, and what he knew about Testigel. And he denied sort of reading the book, denied knowing what Testigel was. But she said in one of the statements that he appeared to think there was more than one delivery of Testigel to the velodrome. And she asked him why he thought that. And at that point, he kind of didn't answer. And then he sort of began this speech that led to him walking out.
And is Shane Sutton appearing in front of the council of his own volition? Did he volunteer for this? Can they insist that he returns? Or can he just say, actually, he's gone back to Spain today, I'm never returning, that's the end of it?
Well, he said he was going to stay all week. He's got a family matter to attend to at some point this week. The tribunal's not sitting today. It's due to sit tomorrow. We will hear at lunchtime whether Shane will come back tomorrow. He's scheduled to and give a whole day. When we asked him afterwards, he said he'd speak to his family and make his mind up last night. So we'll find out. It's interesting what happens next. If Shane doesn't come back, O'Rourke can then ask the tribunal to either take some of the evidence, have it stricken off completely in their judgment, or maybe downplay it and give it less weight.
Remind us, and from the purely cycling point of view, of how important Shane Sutton and Dr. Richard Freeman were to the success of British cycling and to Team Sky over the last decade.
Well, I mean, it's even more than that. I think Shane joined British Cycling as a sort of consultant and worked his way up in 2002, and he left in 2016. So really, you go back to the late 90s and British Cycling. Chris Boardman is riding and finishing well in the prologue and then disappearing. There's the odd medal, but no more. And then suddenly, what's hailed as the medal factory comes in from really 2008 onwards, where Britain win all these medals on the track. Team Sky started in sort of 2010. And after a bumpy couple of years, Bradley Wiggins is winning the Tour de France in 2012, and then obviously Chris Froome. So, and Shane is right at the heart of all this. Dr. Freeman was there from 2009 before leaving in 2017. So again, he is a key figure as well. So yeah, both are absolutely important. So what I think this does, you remember the reputation that British Cycling and Team Sky sold. That they left no stone unturned. They used marginal gains. They were just better than everyone else because they were more forensic. They were more thorough. They were just better. And what we have here is we have a doctor that doesn't keep medical records, We have a doctor that's accused of being drunk, not turning up when needed for, serious cases with riders. We've got a guy, Shane Sutton, who says he's only ever read one book in his life, and wasn't aware of Lance Armstrong's ins and outs, wasn't aware of Floyd Landis's ins and outs. So there's definitely a contradiction there, and it certainly tarnishes that reputation. And those that swallowed wholesale the marginal gains stuff must be looking over her shoulder and thinking, well, did I get this right?
And also possibly those most serious allegations that O'Rourke made yesterday about the testosterone in his house and the accusations that she is a witness who watched Sutton inject the testosterone. This, again, having him worked within Team Sky and British Cycling, who had very much put out there that they were nowhere near any doping, wouldn't employ people involved in doping.
Absolutely. I mean, O'Rourke said that the individual in question wishes to remain anonymous for now, but had given his name and details to UK Sport and UK Anti-Doping, as well as to Damien Collins at the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. So he is willing, at least for his testimony, to be corroborated, to be checked, to be analysed by UK Anti-Doping, and you would hope they would have done that if they haven't already, or do that if they haven't already. It's serious stuff, and it's not just this, of course. It's that infamous Jiffy bag that was sent to Bradley Wiggins in 2011. So it's more than just this, definitely. Yeah,
and there have obviously been a huge amount of questions around Team Sky and British Cycling in recent years, and at times with any scandal you wonder whether you're ever going to get answers, or whether everybody comes together and nothing ever leaks out. What we saw yesterday must worry a huge amount of people within British Cycling, because this looks as though the fallout is going to be far more bitter than anybody could have ever expected.
I would agree with that, although on the other hand, there's nothing yet, I think, apart from the messiness. There's nothing that absolutely says this was going on or this was going on. Sure, the GMC are alleging that it was from an unnamed rider, but that hasn't stuck yet. Sure, Sutton faced some hostile questions, but O'Rourke supposedly still has another day to go, and you would hope that some of the accusations she made against him, she would be looking to tease out if she gets the chance.
Sean, thanks a lot for taking the call.
Thank you.
Sean Ingle there, Chief Sports Reporter at The Guardian.